Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Contrarians. We have a panel discussion for you this evening. This is an interesting topic today. We put it up on our voting system and it won. So this is our discussion for tonight. If you want to join these conversations, you can join our Patreon and you can help vote and decide on what topics are going to be talked about and join the discussions like we are tonight. So join us over at Patreon. Our topic for tonight is we're actually going to be talking about the three singles, although there are more that people are going to bring up. But there's Band-Aid, Do They Know It's Christmas, USA for Africa, We Are the World, and Stars by Hearing Aid. And we're going to kind of discuss these. I don't exactly know how this conversation is going to go. I guess we're going to kind of decide which one's the best one. I think we're going to be talking mostly about Stars Hearing Aid, but basically just a quick rundown. So USA for Africa was a charity single for AIDS around the world, obviously for Africa, but it was written by Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie. There was a whole bunch of pop stars on here: Kenny Rogers, Stevie Wonder, Paul Simon, Lionel Richie. There's ton, like you can watch the music video on YouTube. It's got 85 million views. Do They Know It's Christmas was for Ethiopian famine relief. And there was a whole bunch of people on this one as well. Phil Collins, Culture Club was represented here. Simon Crowe, Boy George, Bono, all kinds of people on this one as well. And then there was Hearing Aid. Hearing Aid performs the music video Stars from the charity album Hearing Aid. So there was an album that went along. Tim's got it showing right there. It was recorded for Polygram Records. The music video features heavy metal stars performing in studio with various musicians singing as part of the chorus and various guitarists performing the guitar soloing. Lots of mega bands mega heavyweight metal bands were incorporated in this. Judas Priest, Dio, Iron Maiden. There's a lot of folks, Y&T, there's a lot of folks featured here. Dokken, Blue Oyster Cult, a lot of different musicians. This, from what I understand, was kind of organized by Dio. A lot of the folks, actually everybody that was in Dio at the time were featured. Vivian Campbell, even actually Craig Goldie, who later joined Dio, was featured in this as well, which is interesting. It's not a very expensive album. If anybody wants the LP, you can find it online. I took a quick look. It doesn't appear to be very expensive. I listened to the three songs. Apparently, there's other songs that incorporated a number of musicians for charity relief and from different countries, which we're going to hear of. My thoughts are I don't know. I was aware of this when not when it happened, but I've been aware of this. I didn't really have many thoughts about it or really check it out. I guess if I was around at the time, if I was a kid, I might have thought, oh, that's kind of lame maybe. But as an adult, I think it's cool. Like they got together, they put their efforts together, raised a whole bunch of money. Apparently Stars Hearing Aid raised, I think it's in excess of millions of dollars at this point. According to Wendy Dio, I think it's raised over $3 million for AIDS relief, I think, for Stars, right? Yeah, I listened to the song and it's not bad. My initial thoughts are the melody reminds me of Dio. Interestingly, that he organized the thing because this could have come off of like a Dio record from the 80s. That's what the melody reminds me of. There's a lot of vocalists, a lot of musicians. There's some cool, it's interesting. I mean, like the pop versions, there's definitely a lot more pop power. If you watch the USA for Africa video, there's tons of people in there. Like there's a lot. And what's interesting too about that is Journey is represented on both We Are the World and Stars because of the guitarist, and Steve Perry sang for the USA for Africa one. But yeah, this is an interesting topic. I really want to let these gentlemen speak about it and tell us what you think about it and which one you think is the best. If I was going to go and listen to one over and over again or have one in a playlist, it would probably be the Stars one. Over the other two, Do They Know It's Christmas and We Are the World. But why don't I throw it over to the gentleman of the hour, the man that we have to thank for this topic. I'm going to throw it over to John to let us know why he suggested this topic and let us know what he thinks about these songs and which is the best.
Okay. Thanks, Margo. Yeah. So this topic really came out of my wife and I sitting for lunch after on a Sunday right around Christmas time. And of course, the Christmas playlist is going, and I heard "Do They Know It's Christmas" on it. It was on, and I was like, I I don't know. I got listened to the lyrics again. I'm like, and I looked at her. I was like, what do you think is the better song, this or We Are the World? And she was like, well, I know We Are the World. I don't know, Do They Know It's Christmas? Because I wasn't really familiar, because I wasn't familiar with it back then. I wasn't going to ask Stars because she's not a heavy metal girl. So that's how it really came. So there were lyrics of each of the songs that started kind of going back, of course, Do They Know It's Christmas was the Ultravox come together, and they write the song after seeing BBC reports talking about this awful thing going on in Ethiopia with this famine. So they write the song, they get together with the label, and then they start, it becomes this who's who of pop music to play on. They tried to get a couple of guys from Status Quo to sing on it. They wanted him to sing one of the lines, but it was a little too high for them, and supposedly they were pretty plastered when they got there. So who knows? But yeah. We Are the World would come next. That's a who's who of American pop. As a friend of mine would call it, a schmaltzy ripoff of Do They Know It's Christmas. As we've discovered with Do They Know It's Christmas and We Are the World, where's the hard rock heavy metal connection? Steve Perry, maybe? But that's about it. Everybody else is pretty much pop or country or something along that line. So that's why Ronnie James Dio wanted to do The Hearing Aid, and he gets that together. Unfortunately, they record that in May of '85, but it doesn't get released till almost a year later. So it kind of maybe lost a little bit of the steam, especially when you think about the Live Aid concert had already taken place. For those of us MTV kids who grew up during that time, I was plastered to my radio during that day, listening to that as much of it. So anyway, so it was great to see the heavy metal community getting involved. I think Stars, has the most realistic views because everybody, right? Dio always sang about magic and dreaming and dreamers and rainbows and all these different things. And it's like, man, that's what everybody wants. Everybody wants to do that. And then Jeff Tate sings a line in there, which I think nails right on the head. But singers and songs can't change it alone. And I think that was something that the other two songs kind of missed. There's that realistic view. It's like, hey, we're just people too. We need your help to help obliterate this thing. I think Do They Know It's Christmas has a humanistic approach because we all don't know why we are living where we are, why we're born into the time period we are. I think when Bono sings the line, "Thank God tonight it's them instead of you," that's a pretty strong line there. So I think that's a little bit more of a typical human approach. And then, of course, not to be outdone, the Americans have to come up with something just as schmaltzy. But to me, they kind of sound like, these were some of the biggest stars of the time. They probably could have contributed a chunk, and they probably did, but they still wanted people to, bring in that extra dollar. So anyway, so those are kind of my thoughts. I personally, I'm a Stars fan. I mean, I got the cassette too. I had the vinyl. I don't have it any longer. I got this old VHS that, of course, I can't play yet, but I still got this 12-inch single, and I was just listening to the song before we got on here, and it's just crazy when you listen to the guitar solo. It all pretty much sounds like they're all plugged into the same amp and same everything. Nothing sounded, but you couldn't really tell anybody's style except for maybe when Yngwie and Brad Gillis. Other than that, it's like, okay, well, that's supposedly George Lancer. This is this there, this one's this one. So, but Stars, I would say, would be my favorite of the three. Do They Know It's Christmas? I do have a soft spot for because I do appreciate that video and I do like the song. We Are the World is just, I don't know. It's like my friend said, it's a schmaltzy ripoff, and I just can't listen to it anymore, even today, even though it was a good cause. But that's basically really kind of my thoughts with this. I definitely go Stars all the way.
I'm gonna throw it over to Rand.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm the new kid on the block, you guys. So thanks for having me. I joined last night, and well, I picked a weird time to join. I didn't even get a chance to listen to Stars, so I haven't heard it since 1985. I gotta say, but it was on MTV a lot, and I watched MTV a lot back in '85. And I heard "Do They Know It's Christmas" every Christmas year. The local FM station that plays soft rock always plays Christmas music, and I heard it just a couple of weeks ago. So, "Do They Know It's Christmas"? That's a good song. And I haven't heard "We Are the World" in a real long time either. I always thought "hearing aid" was a great pun, because people who complained about heavy metal and hard rock being too loud, it's sort of ironic, to call it "hearing aid." It's got double entendre all over it. But yeah, the musicians they chose, I think, were really good. The guitar players and stuff. I'm a guitar player, so I enjoyed it. And I was a big fan of hard rock and heavy metal during the 80s because I'm really a progressive guy. I love Yes more than anybody. And there wasn't a lot going on with progressive rock in 85. So I tended to shoot towards heavy metal a lot, Judas Priest. And I was already a Black Sabbath fan. And so I was really glad to see all this happen. It just shows that, that musicians, everybody thinks they're just greedy and rich and don't care about anybody. They just, all these charity songs were really from the heart, and they wanted to help. And I think that's awesome. That's about all I got to say about it. I'm glad it happened.
Hey, sorry, I just had to move because my internet was not working very well upstairs, and it looks like it's still freezing a little bit, but I think we're okay if I shut my camera off when you speak. So why don't I throw it over to Matt? Take it away, Matt.
I am 100% all about Stars, though. So that's all I'm planning to talk about. Really obsessed with it when it came out. I also have the VHS and or it out. Watched it so many times. I sort of thinking about what was going on behind the scenes as they're playing. You get behind the scenes footage with them in terms of they're actually showing the making of the song, the recording of the song in the video. And I love just watching. So you got Ronnie producing, and you got the other vocalists doing their parts. And like when Don Dawkins sing, Ronnie really kind of shames him in there, like for being too soft on one of the lines. And in a way it's like actually a little hurtful, right? He's saying, this, I like when you do the soft parts a little bit, but this is actually a really serious subject. And if you go too soft, like he's really kind of letting him have it. Then contrast that Rob Halford singing, right? And they're listening to the playback, and Ronnie's not saying anything, right? Like Halford's just got his arms crossed, and they're both just kind of nodding their head, right? There's nothing to say, right? Like it's perfect. So I love watching that. I love the idea that so Paul Shortino from Rough Cut, it's kind of like he got moved to the major league to get to be on this. He's sort of a level below the other singers that are on there in terms of popularity, but I think Dio was producing or had something to do with Rough Cut at the time, so I'm sure that's how he got there. You've got the Spinal Tap guys there, and Paul Shortino played Duke Fame in Spinal Tap. So I think this is hilarious that, like, if you think about it, it's actually Duke Fame coming in to do it. It's the first time that he's been in the same room as the Spinal Tap guys since they were in the hotel in the movie where, Duke Fame and just completely blows them off as they're going through, and they're playing the big venue and Tap's playing the small venue. So all that cracks me up. I think it's really interesting to see who didn't play, who's the people who are there. They're in the choir, but didn't get a chance to do exactly, John. Yeah, so Nugent's there. I would have loved to hear what he would have played, right? That would have been really interesting to see his take from a guitar standpoint. You got both the Wasp guys, so Chris Holmes and Blackie Lawless, neither one of them get to do anything. Vince Neil is there. He doesn't get to play. I think it's interesting throughout the video, Ronnie saying really nice things about Vivian Campbell. Craig Goldie, as you said, is there. Vivian's out of the band shortly thereafter, and Ronnie never has a good thing to say about him after, but this is sort of the last time that he's saying really nice things. I also pulled out, I got the Kerrang magazine at that time that covered it. So they had kind of decent coverage of it. It's a really creepy picture on the top. It's very odd. It's this like warrior metal guy holding a starving baby. And it's the headline says, "Let them eat metal," but the guy, it kind of looks like he's going to eat the baby. Like it's this really twisted sort of thing, totally not appropriate for the subject matter. But there's some really interesting information there that I hadn't remembered since I read it. Scorpions and Rat were both supposed to be there. So they agreed to participate, and their management pulled them out at the last minute. So I thought that was interesting. Scorpions did get a song on the LP. They contributed, but they were supposed to be there live. Ronnie complains a lot about some of the people who don't show up, including former bandmates of his. So he says, Richie Blackmore, he goes, I guess it didn't pay enough, so that's why he's not there. He badmouths Tony Iommi for not being there. And then Jimmy Page, so tying it into Live Aid, they had booked the day after Live Aid studio time in Philadelphia. The engineer was there, Vivian's there, Ronnie's there to record Jimmy Page, and at the last minute, his manager says he's not going to show up. So there's a lot of kind of like what ifs, what could have been. There was a plan to be a concert that all fell through, and of course, there's a lot of hassles, which is why it came out so late. The last thing I'll end with is just what I was obsessed with at the time was like, and with my friends, was who was the best, right? You got all these singers and you kind of comparing them. And for that, it was Rob Halford for all of us, right? Like there was really no argument. You can hear him above the choir, right? And when they show them singing in the choir, he's just, other people are mugging for the camera. He's just killing it, right? He's putting everything into it. But we really analyzed the solos. So John, I know you're saying where like it's hard to tell who's doing what, but we really like got into this and we were comparing everything. We all would have different opinions. And so I like at the time came up with kind of a scoring system for like to figure out like objectively who's the best. So I was like giving points, like if you were standing up while you were playing your solo, like that was better, right? So the people who had played more live shows, they would be standing up, whether, the more bedroomy guitarists, right, were just sitting while they were playing. If you had to be looking at your guitar while you were playing, then you were losing points for that. And, I kind of deducted points for whammy bar and tapping. So, I liked Vivian Campbell and Yngwie's solos on it, like when I was listening to it, but, the tail of the tape doesn't lie. When I added up all the points, it was George Lynch, Neil Schon, and Buck Dharma were the best. George Lynch got extra points. You can hear when he's playing in the background, and you can see the people in the studio listening to it. You can hear this woo when he's playing because he's just kind of really on fire. Neil Schon got extra points because he's pretty wailing. He's totally looking away from the guitar, making great guitar face while he's doing it. And then Buck Dharma just looks wherever the camera is. It's like he's playing for the camera. So I kind of like those old pros. So anyways, thanks for indulging me and my obsession on stars. I'm a big fan. And again, John, thanks for the topic.
Cool. Thanks, Matt. I'm going to throw it over to Christian next.
Okay, so I guess, when you have such a large group of, talented musicians in one project, it's kind of tempting to, say, kind of criticize it, say, what if this, or, maybe the soft intro could have been written a little better. And, the chorus is nothing to write home about, but all that aside, I think it's just really cool to appreciate the project for what it is. And just, I'm just really glad it exists because it's just really cool. And we talk about the world's greatest crossover in history. Ronnie Dio, Rob Halford, Jeff Tate. It was really cool to see Don Dokken, Blackie Lawless in the chorus. It was really cool. Just some of the most talented faces in 80s metal in one place is just really incredible. Obviously, it's hard not to imagine the inclusion of some other faces like Bruce Dickinson and Glenn and KK from Judas Priest, or Lemmy, or like you said, the Scorpions. But we also have contributions on the actual album of it. But clearly, this song was written by the Dio band. The cheesy lyrics kind of give it away. But it's a good song. It's catchy and melodic, really commercial. It would fit right on the Sacred Heart album, I think. But everybody, I mean, the video is incredible. Everyone's really giving it their all. Lead vocalists all sound really amazing, especially Jeff Tate, I think Rob Halford. And then I think the second time the chorus goes around, but it pans over the choir, and like Matt said, Rob Halford is just getting into it, and you can hear the falsetto, and it just gives you chills. It's crazy, man. Just the talent in the entire thing. As for the solo section, the entire thing just screams 80s metal, and I think to me it kind of blends together. I think for me the one solo that really sets itself apart is Yngwie's. He just has the most unique style. The neoclassical. I think it's kind of like a wave-like playing. I think he kind of does. Like we already mentioned, though, it's really interesting to see, Neil Sean on one project and then Steve Perry on the other project. But as for the other projects, We Are the World, I probably only heard 3 or 4 times in my lifetime. And then Do They Know It's Christmas, I've heard plenty of times. I actually really liked that song growing up. But to me, they're all really great songs. They're all catchy. But of course, being biased towards, metal and rock, I have to give it to Stars. The vocal talent is definitely unmatched. And the other 2 projects are more synth based and keyboard based, which is, it's different audiences, but I don't have much to say. It's for me, it's clear as Stars, and I just think there's too much talent there to not give it to them. But yeah, I really enjoyed this relic of history. And if you haven't watched the video, you got to watch the video, obviously. The whole documentary with the interviews and everything, it's really great. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Definitely Stars is the best for me.
Cool, MTV played that whole video. I remember seeing it at least once with it's the one you got, Matt.
Do They Know It's Christmas? I hear the Christmas one all the time. Like whenever it's Christmas, I hear Do They Know It's Christmas?
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds kind of like Duran Duran, because Sound on the Bond's just all over that thing.
I do quickly want to run through the track listing of the Hearing Aid album. So the Hearing Aid album actually has a track listing of bands that some of them, like Scorpions was mentioned, didn't actually participate in the Stars song, but they have live versions of they have Heaven's on Fire by Kiss live from 1984, Hungry for Heaven by Dio live in Philadelphia in 1985. There's The Zoo taken from Worldwide Live, Scorpions. There's also Jimi Hendrix Experience on here, which is cool. Rush, Motorhead, Accept, and then the Stars Hearing Aid. So I just wanted to quickly go through the actual album songs. That's what's listed on Wikipedia anyways. And like I said, it's not a very hard album to find apparently, because it's not very expensive online if anybody actually wants to pick up this album. But it's cool.
I'm trying to find it on CD.
Yeah, it's not available on CD very easily.
There's a Japanese CD, and it's like hundreds of dollars. And Wendy Dio has said multiple times that it's going to be reissued, but it hasn't been. And I think it's because you've got all these different artists on different labels.
Right. Let me throw it over to Pontus next. And Pontus actually has another song that we didn't cover so far.
Yeah.
He wants to bring up.
First of all, I remember when these songs came out, especially Do They Know It's Christmas, because I was 12 at the time, and I bought it. I bought it a week after release because it was a major hit in Europe, of course, and all over the world. But you felt that you want to buy it. It was quite. I think the price was a bit reduced, so you could actually more could buy it, and I liked that a lot, and I still do. It's still on my Christmas list, and. It was quite fun because it has Phil Collins in there playing. and the bass is played by John Taylor from Duran Duran, and the rest is Mitsuru, I guess. And my take on We Are the World is a bit cheesy. I think they wanted to do a song that was more into, into the church thing, gospel type of thing. And it's very interesting to see all these people together, both the British ones and the American ones, because these were big stars at the time, and having them in the same studio and having them together was, wow, it's like, it's weird in a sense. But my Stars was not a big hit here in Sweden. I didn't hear it that much. I knew about the record, but I just heard it recently, and it's quite interesting to see all those bands. I think the Maiden guy, I think the guitarist from Maiden was there in the studio. They flew in from the Slavery tour, and Bruce is on there, and Yngwie is on there. One interesting thing that happened was that there was a Swedish metal song with a lot of Swedish bands on it, called Swedish Metal Aid. And it was instigated by a journalist here. We had this massive teenage magazine for music called OK in Sweden. It was huge. And those journalists, they traveled all over the world and interviewed everybody from Deep Purple to XTC to, it's a major big 80s teenage, music magazine. And he had interviewed Wendy Dio. He had met her in Los Angeles, and she told him about the Hearing Aid project. So he took the idea and went to Key Marcello, who then was a member of Easy Action, who in turn went to Joey Tempest and said, "Can you write a song?" And Joey and Europe had just finished a summer tour, which we call On the Loose, and were pre-production. They were in pre-production for going for Swedish to record the final countdown, but he had a song that fitted. So there is a Swedish documentary about it. He sits in the studio with this demo, and the song was called Give a Helping Hand. And when he plays the demo, there is a section in the demo where he says, "Oh, look, this is a bridge here. And I took a little bit of the bridge," and he sings it. And it turns out to be the fanfare that is the final countdown riff. So it actually came from this song. And what they did was they invited a lot of Swedish bands to come in and sing on it. The ones who played on it was members from Easy Action and the Swedish rock group Treat. And then they invited everybody. So they had a studio full of 150 musicians singing. And they said the amount of hairspray that was used that day, you couldn't, the amount of hair in the studio was enormous. And so it reads like a who's who of Swedish metal class 85. There is Easy Action, there is Europe, there is Aphrodite, there is Martin Popov's favorite band Torch, there is 220 Volt, there is all kinds of metal bands in there, and they sing this beautiful ballad called "Give a Helping Hand." You can actually find it on your YouTube. It sold very well. It sold platinum here in Sweden, and went to #1. So, and it gave a very large amount of money to Bob Gellup's organization. So it was a huge hit. And the thing is that heavy metal at the time was seen as a, major threat to certain people in Sweden, because you guys had PMRC, but we had Hem och Skola, which was, a sort of organization for parents when it came to teenagers, and they had seen Wasp on TV, and that was an outrage. So during those years from 84 to 85, they needed to do something to make heavy metal more accessible and acceptable, and this song made it. So it's a bit of a cornerstone in the Swedish metal sort of story that Jori Tempest wrote the song and Kim Marcello produced it. They later became, bandmates, but they weren't at the time. They were from different bands. So it's very interesting. Everybody looks like poodles, right? It's a very beautiful song.
Cool. Thanks, Pontus. Last but not least, Tim, let us know what you think and tell us about the Canadian version of We Are the World.
Yeah. So just briefly, Do They Know It's Christmas came first. And even if you didn't know from seeing the video, you can immediately hear that's Phil Collins on drums. It's very obvious. I have a fond nostalgia for that. We hear it every year, and it's pretty hard not to get swept up in the Feed the World chorus. And all of these songs have a danger of sounding a bit cheesy, but you kind of have to overlook that and think about, but it's for a good cause, right? We Are the World is probably the one that's aged the least well. Although, intentions were good. I love Steve Perry's line. I'm a huge Journey fan. But on the We Are the World album, the USA for Africa album, like the Hear and Aid album, there was the song with everybody singing on it. But then there were individual songs, like Bruce Springsteen has a song on it, Huey Lewis and the News has a song on it, the Pointer Sisters have a song, Prince has a song, Steve Perry actually has a song. I don't think it's been on anything else. And there's another track on that album by a group called Northern Lights. And Northern Lights was the Canadian equivalent of USA for Africa, Band Aid, Swedish Metal Aid, Hearing Aid. And the Northern Lights song is a ballad called Tears Are Not Enough. It was written by Bryan Adams, Jim Vallance, and David Foster. So it sounds like a Bryan Adams ballad that they wrote and gave to somebody else. That's what it sounds like to me. And it was a who's who of Canadian musicians, some of whom were well known around the world, some of whom were not. Like, it's interesting from a point of view of somebody who grew up, like I'm Canadian, to watch the Band Aid video, for example. And I recognize Boy George and the guys from Duran Duran and Bono and Sting, but every once in a while there'd be a guy, who's that? Who's that guy? I don't, there are artists that are only popular in their home countries, and we've got a ton of them here in Canada. So you see people from bands like Platinum Blonde in this video, in this Canadian video, and you go, well, people outside of the States aren't going to know who that is. So they've got like Gordon Lightfoot and Burton Cummings and Mike Reno from Loverboy, and Anne Murray, and all different kinds of genres. But where this one gets an edge is that there's a line sung by no less than Geddy Lee. So that immediately brings it into our neck of the woods here and what we talk about. So, if you watch it, it's kind of like We're the World. It's kind of cheesy, but again, it's the spirit of it, right? And it doesn't get any play outside of Canada that I know of, even though it was on the USA for Africa album. So my experience with Hearing Aid is I remember seeing the video on Much Music, summer '86. I wasn't into hard rock and metal at that point, but I watched it constantly. And I thought it was cool. I thought, why shouldn't there be any kind of music doing this sort of tribute? And I think most of it at the time was all mainly for famine relief, but I'm not sure about that. But I certainly remember seeing it. There was a short version, like there was an edited version, And then there was a long version that had all the guitar solos in it. And I just love listening to that extended solo as they're just going back and forth between D and F. And I could pick out George Lynch's part easy. I actually love Brad Gillis's part with the whammy bar. He said that, everybody else was doing shredding licks. He had to do something to sound a little bit different. So he was known as the king of the whammy bar. Neil Sean, I think, surprised a lot of people because he is just blistering away. He's like the secret weapon in Journey. We Journey fans know, yeah, he does that. He just sits there and it's effortless. It comes to him. But a lot of people that think that they're, more of a pop band think, yeah, listen to this guy play. It is interesting that you have, Perry on the USA for Africa singing the crap out of it, I might add. And then you've got Neil on the hearing aid. So it was, it came and went, wasn't very successful. Yeah, it lost a lot of momentum because it wasn't released for over a year later, which is a shame. And kind of forgot about it. And then in 1990, I remember I found a bunch of circus magazines used, and they were all from 86. And there was one that had a pretty detailed article on hearing aid. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. And but it wasn't until 1993 that I actually found this cassette. I'll hold this up. I found this cassette for $1. And as of now, this is the only thing I've got from hearing aid. And aside from getting to hear Stars again, something that Wikipedia obviously neglected to mention is that it also had a Y&T song on it called Go for the Throat. And what was significant about that is that it's the studio version of that song, which isn't on any of their albums. And Dave Meniketti is one of the featured vocalists on that. He sings the first line sometime in the night, like he sings that, and then he does some of the ad-libbing towards the end, which is interesting because, they were never a huge band. They're one of my favorites. And apparently Dio really liked Meniketti singing. Jeff Tate is sporting the best mullet ever in that video. It's just like there should be a monument to it. And he also sings amazingly. I like the way Don Dawkins sings his line. Don's not a raspy singer. That's not the way he sings. I don't know why Ronnie was so hard on him. And as Christian mentioned, the song it's basically a Dio song. It was written by Ronnie, Jimmy Bain, and Vivian Campbell. So yeah, it could have been on Last in Line, could have been on Sacred Heart. And it's very much in, rainbows and dreams and things like that. But I really enjoy it. I really enjoy watching the video and watching everybody interacting on that. And I wish that it had done better. It actually reached number 39 on the Billboard mainstream rock chart back in 86. So obviously it wasn't getting a lot of airplay. I think it got more video play than anything because I know MTV played it, had Much Music played it quite a lot too. One of my favorite parts of the video of the documentary where I think it's Brad Gillis, and I'm not sure where they're recording, but I think radio was in the title and he just kind of covers up the RA. So it says Dio. I always thought that was kind of funny. And because I only have this on cassette, I got to get the vinyl. I remember trying to figure out who was who from this tiny little picture. Down below, it's got everybody listed that's on it. But it was cool. There was other things that made it worthwhile to get to. At the time, the version of Distant Early Warning, the live track from Rush, was from the Grace Under Pressure home video, which wasn't on an album. I'm pretty sure that Heaven's on Fire, the live version of that, is from their Animalized Live Uncensored. And it's just a cool thing. It's just a cool little piece of hard rock metal history that if people like us don't talk about it, will go on to be forgotten, especially if it never gets reissued. So it gets my vote for my favorite, but if I had to say one to come in second, honestly, I'd probably say Do They Know It's Christmas?
Yeah, and what's interesting too is you mentioned the video, like it's just incredible to see like a moment in time where all of those guys were in the same room,
Yeah.
It might have been recorded separately. I don't know a lot about the recording process, but I don't know if everybody remembers when, kind of like the COVID thing started and there's a bunch of celebrities that put out Imagine and they all did their own little clips. They're not in the same room. That's kind of similar to this.
I think it was, Marco, because you couldn't do
I've never actually even seen that.
I think it was recorded all in the same, I'm sure there's information here about it, but you couldn't do that. But it says May 20th and 21st, 1985, 40 artists from the hard rock music community gathered at A&M Studios to participate in the making of a record called Stars. So yeah, everybody flew in for that 2-day session.
Incredible.
I remember reading an interview with Dave Meniketti saying that Neil Sean, and Brad Gillis had to catch a plane to get back to San Francisco because they're all from that area. A lot of these guys were probably on tour at the time. And that might have something to do with the fact some of the notable absences. I mean, it's pretty much a who's who of who was big in hard rock and metal at that point in time, but there are some notable ones missing. And in the case of people like, Ritchie Blackmore and Jimmy Page, I think there was an awful lot of ego involved there too. But it's interesting seeing that the listings of the guys, the band that they're in, and how those bands change. Because like someone already said, Craig Goldie's on here, but he's listed here as a member of Jufria. Very soon he would be a member of Dio, and Vivian would be in Whitesnake. Tommy Aldridge is on this. I believe that the drums on here are Tommy Aldridge and Vinny and Carmine Appice, however they say their names. I think those are the drummers on this song.
It's Frank Benally.
Frankie Benally. Yeah.
Aldridge is there. Carmine's there, but I think it's on the recording itself. It's Frank Benally, and I think Vinny Appice is on the recording. But the other guys were there, and I know Carmine talks in the video about a lot of the different charity work that he does. So he was it seemed like really passionate to be involved.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the whole documentary's on YouTube if anyone wants to check it out. I'm pretty sure it's all up there on YouTube. I really would love to see a CD, Blu-ray reissue, a deluxe. But like I said before, I'm pretty sure you're dealing with a whole bunch of different record labels, and it's very, very hard to make those things happen now. And to what end would it be for? You know what I mean? But it would be nice to see a company like Rhino, a reissue specializing company, get behind this and put out a really nice version of it, preferably that didn't cost $300.
There's a YouTube version of the full documentary that's different than this. So it's a North American release of it. So it's dubbed or it's got subtitles in a different language. And the edits of the video of the interviews are different. So it includes additional interview stuff that's not on here. And John, again, going back to your T-shirt, Nugent talks quite a bit more. So he goes on, which isn't in this one, about how he just got back from fishing, and if he had just stayed there longer, he would have had enough fish to help solve the problem. But instead, he came here to sing in the choir and stuff like that. So
I'm going to throw it over to our ringmaster for tonight. John, do you have any final thoughts? And is there anything that you want to plug? Anything you're working on?
Wow. So final thoughts. So, thank you guys for, if anything, this was a good time just to hang out and talk about, like y'all were saying, a time in history. And especially for some of us hard rock metal guys, this was a special time, especially if for those of us who grew up around it and were just able to be a part of it. As far as any final thoughts, yeah, I think y'all have said it all, and I've just been smiling from ear to ear this whole time because this has been great. Other than my little music channel that I am starting to put ideas together, maybe putting some stuff called the Music Corner. I don't have much of anything going on right now, and I've got a lot of ideas in my head. Whether or not I get to them or not is another story, but I will certainly keep going at it and keep everybody posted when they do. For those of you who do have channels, I know Tim, you got your thing, and then Marco does all the contrarian stuff, and we talked about I think Pontus is wanting to get into it too, and so all Christian the same. First I do want to say, Christian brother, you were probably I was younger than you are now when all this came out. I was like 13, 14, 15 years old when all these songs came out. And you're the youngin' on the block. So you for championing and getting involved with these 80 metals, the hard rock heavy metal that we grew up on. And it's awesome to see your generation getting a hold of it and that you're a fan of it. So that's awesome to see.
Yeah. Thanks for everybody to be so welcoming. For somebody young like me, I just, not a lot of people my age are interested in talking about all this stuff. So I'm just really glad to be a part of all this. So, yeah.
Hey, we're glad to have you, other than the fact that I'm not the youngest one when you're around. So other than that,
I'm the oldest. I'll be 70 in September.
Rand, do you have any final thoughts or anything to plug or anybody you want to say hi to?
Well, I would like to say that I saw Yesterday and Today open for Peter Gabriel in 1977.
Wow.
Wow. That's an interesting.
Kitty was awesome.
Amen.
Yeah. To this day, I don't know why did they change their name, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, Yesterday and Today was a way different band than Y&T. They were progressive. They were kind of like Styx without keyboards. It was pretty amazing. But I have a channel on YouTube too. There's a bunch of Rand Kellys, but this space right here, it's in the studio. There's no glasses on. It's just like this. But anyways, all I do is I have 7 keyboards in my other room, and I turn on these automatic pilot type sequencer things, and I just play like Mellotron and Hammond organ or Mini Moog. I also have guitars, and I just jam live with myself. So if anybody wants to hear my maniacal excursions, they're more than welcome to. I'm trying to get 1,000 subscribers so I could start my own live thing, but I'm only at 565. I'm stuck for some reason. Nobody watches my videos.
Also,
so I can help.
Cool. Matt, any sorry, Rand?
That's it. I'm done. Thanks.
Awesome. I'll subscribe. I'll be your subscriber. I'll watch your videos. Matt, any final thoughts? Anybody you want to say hi to? Anything you need to plug?
No final thoughts. Thanks for this was a really fun one, so I was really glad I could participate. I realized I actually have a Spinal Tap T-shirt on, so we had it was more related than I thought.
Nice. Pontus, any final thoughts? Anybody want to say hi to? Anything to plug?
The interesting thing with all these songs, we talked about 5 songs now, is that all these people got together and it was original songs. It wasn't covers. If that had happened today, I think people had got in to sing a well-known song instead. But people actually wrote these songs to do these charities, and I think that's just wonderful in a sense. You know, people made the effort, and we had new songs, and that was great.
Which led to Live Aid.
Which year?
Yeah.
1985.
Yeah, July. It led to Live Aid, is what I was saying. These songs.
Yeah, it led to that. Yeah.
Especially with Bob Geldof, you know.
Yeah.
Very cool. Christian, any final thoughts? Anything you want to say? Anybody want to say hi to? Any plugs?
Yeah, nothing much. Just like I said last time, my Instagram is Christian Kahlo 2. It's Christian COLO02. Nothing else.
Very cool. Tim, anybody you want to say hi to? Any plugs? Any final thoughts?
Well, I certainly appreciate all the follows. I just followed Rand's channel. One thing I forgot to add, and Pontus reminded me, they have to stop redoing Do They Know It's Christmas. They've redone it like 3 times now. They got to stop.
Yeah.
Like, you can't bet the first
song.
No. Just play the original every year.
Yeah, you can't do better than that original.
Awesome. Other than that, thanks everybody for stopping by tonight. If you want to like and subscribe our channel, that would be cool too. The Contrarians. We also have t-shirts, tpublic.com. The link is in the description. Also, if you want to join our Patreon at any tier, you can join our chats. You know, different tiers give you different access to whether you are suggesting topics or whether you're voting on the topics, but any tier will get you to jump on the chats like these. So if you want to join these panel discussions, join us over at Patreon, and we'll see you next time.